Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the CFL DFS video for week number 4. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my CFL DFS sheet for week number 4, talking through all the relevant players, whether or not I would consider them a GPP option, a cash game option, or a GPP pay down or kind of dart throw option. And then I will also be mentioning whether or not I'll be overweight or underweight to them on the field, or kind of in line with the field, slightly overweight, slightly underweight, just to give you some more insight into these plays for this week overall. But without further ado, we'll get right into it, and we'll start off with the Edmonton Elks. We have Trey Ford at quarterback, $9,800, GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him this week. It is an interesting matchup versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. His rushing upside does definitely help him out. He's coming off a really good game, so definitely do like him quite a bit, but would expect a decent amount of ownership to him this week just in general. At the running back position, we have Javon Leake and Justin Rankin. Justin Rankin I have as a GPP option, slightly underweight to the field on him, although he's been pretty decent so far this season, but hasn't really shown that upside game so far yet. And then Javon Leake at $3,600, a kind of a pay down option, slightly overweight to the field on him, especially with him returning punts and the upside that he could potentially have in that regard, as well as on the offensive end. I definitely do like him at this cheap price tag once again. And then just another note, they did sign running back Spencer Brown to the practice roster earlier this week, so that's just an additional note. I'm not exactly sure why they did it, since both these running backs are healthy at this point in time. Then we're going to move down to our wide receivers. We got Stephen Dunbar Jr., $4,000. I have him listed as a potential cash game option, slightly overweight to the field on him. You know, he didn't have the best week 1, but last week he looked really good. Kind of what we expect out of Stephen Dunbar Jr., as he is a very talented wide receiver. Definitely do like his upside once again this week. Curly Gittens Jr., $7,400 GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him once again this week. Had a really strong game number 2, so definitely do like that upside that he could have on any given slate. And then Arkell Smith is kind of the last guy here at $4,500 GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him once again. Helps out a little bit on offense, doing some kick return duties so far this season at the same time as well. And then we move down to that Elks defense, $3,300. I'm not really too interested in them going against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Not the greatest defense in the world, not the greatest matchup. They are the cheapest defense on the slate, so if you want a reason to play them, that's probably it. But other than that, I'm really not too interested in getting to them this week overall. Then we move down to the Blue Bombers. We got Zach Collaros at quarterback, $9,400. Not the greatest first start of the season for him last week, if we're being completely honest. But I do like him as a GPP option. Once again, probably going to be in line with the field on him. You could maybe get a little bit slightly overweight, you know, if people are a little bit down on him being suspended the first week and then not playing the greatest in his second game of the season. So there is some potential upside to be had there from that perspective. It's kind of like a leverage play. Then we move down to running back. We have Matthew Peterson, $8,500. GPP option, slightly underweight to the field on him. Wasn't the greatest second game for him after that really strong first game after Brady Oliveira went down, but definitely still does have some decent upside. Quentin Cooley was active behind him at $5,000. So, you know, if you really want to take a chance on him, you could definitely do that. But at $5,000, it's not something I'm really writing home about. And then once again, Brady Oliveira and Peyton Logan both out once again this week due to their respective injuries. Then moving down to the wide receiver room, we get Nick Nowitzki at $7,700. I do have him as a GPP option, assuming that he does ultimately end up playing this week overall. Would be in line with the field on him, maybe slightly overweight to the field just with this injury designation now at this point in time. Blue Bombers only practiced one day this week. He did not practice during that day due to an ankle injury. Technically listed as questionable, but he is listed on the depth chart. And Dylan Mitchell is still on that one-game injured list, so I would assume that Nowitzki is good to go, but you know, there is always the chance that he rolls it early. There is a little bit more risk than there would be in other weeks at the same time as well. Then we move down to Dalton Schoen at $5,700, so his price tag is slowly going up there. GPP option, slightly overweight to the field on him. If you really want to roll him out as a cash game option, once again, you can definitely do that. Then we move down to Carrick Weefall at $7,800. GPP option, slightly overweight to the field on him. Once again, if you watch my videos already, you know this is a guy that I am very high on for the season overall, and he has not disappointed 2 straight weeks, so I would expect that trend to continue, especially if Nowitzki is limited anyway at all. Then we move down to Blue Bombers defense, $4,700. I do believe they are the most expensive defense on this slate. I do have them as a GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on them overall. Obviously, the price tag is kind of the one detriment to them, but overall, they do look like a pretty decent play. Then we move down to Montreal Alouettes. Davis Alexander, quarterback, sustained a hamstring injury, so it doesn't look like he's going to play this week. Technically did not practice all week. listed as questionable. I believe earlier in the week it looked like he was going to go on the injured list, but has not been made an official transaction at this point in time. So we will see McLeod Bethel-Thompson getting the start, $9,300, a very, very battle-tested veteran in the CFL. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him overall. Then we move down to that running back position. So we got some good news that Travis Tice looks to be back this week. Practiced in full all week due to the neck injury after missing last week, and he is going to be available for this game. However, Sean Thomas Erlington did not practice all week due to a knee injury. He's technically listed as questionable, but I would assume that he is out for this week. So if you want to get to some Travis Tice, definitely do like that at $5,300. Pretty strong GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field, maybe slightly overweight to the field on him this week overall. If you really want to do a pay down option or kind of a dart throw with Stevie Scott at $3,300, you could definitely do that as well. Then we move down to the wide receiver room. Shedler Furvis was cut this week, so that was at least a somewhat notable transaction, although they do have quite a few wide receivers at this point in time. Austin Mack was limited in practice on Monday, did not practice on Tuesday or Wednesday due to a hamstring injury. He's technically listed as questionable, but if I had to bet money on it, I'd probably assume that he's going to be out for this week, so that should open up some opportunities for this wide receiver core just in general. And that mainly starts with Tyson Phillip at $8,900. GPP option, slightly overweight to the field on him once again. If you want to roll him out in a cash game setting, you can definitely do that at the same time as well. Charleston Rambo is a guy that I did bump up here at $5,500 to a GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him, especially with this news with Austin Mack. He definitely could have some decent upside. And then Tyler Snead, $6,200. Been pretty solid so far this season. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him once again. If you want to take a chance on Cole Speaker, you can definitely do that if Austin Mack ultimately ends up getting ruled out for this game. Then we move down to the Alouettes defense. They've been pretty solid so far this season. $4,500 GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on them. They are going against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. There is some decent upside to be had there, especially with Greg Bell out at running back. And Bo Levi Mitchell has the potential to have a high turnover game, which could definitely benefit the Alouettes just in general, but probably going to be in line with the field on them. Price tag is pretty high at this point in time, but definitely do like the potential upside that they could have just in general. Then we're going to move down to that Tiger Cats team. I do have Bo Levi Mitchell at quarterback, $9,600, listed as a potential cash game option. Obviously, if you're playing as your cash game quarterback, you're not going to play the Montreal defense because that would just probably not make sense. Although, I think it was like 2 seasons ago, Vernon Adams was the top performing quarterback. He had like a 3 interception game, and God, I can't even remember who it was. I think like Calgary Stampeders, I think it was who they were playing against. 2 interceptions for touchdowns or something like that, and it ended up being like the highest scoring lineup that you could potentially have, but that is pretty rare just in general. But I do like Bo Levi Mitchell quite a bit this week. We'll be slightly overweight to the field on him, especially with Greg Bell out at running back. So with that being said, Greg Bell is out at running back this week due to a calf injury. So we will see the 2 running backs behind him in Ante Litri and Johnny Augustine. Could probably split the workload. We'll see what it looks like. Johnny Augustine might get a couple more carries, and then Litri could get kind of the goal line work. It will be interesting to see how they play it all out, but both are interesting pay down options. Ultimately, I'm probably going to end up in line with the field on both of them. Then we move down to the wide receivers. I like them a little bit more this week, just kind of with that run game probably not being quite as strong as if Greg Bell was active. But we're going to start off with Shamar Bridges, GPP option at $7,900. Probably going to be in line with the field on him once again. Kenny Lawler has been awesome so far this season, $8,400. Cash game option, slightly overweight to the field on him once again this week. Then we have Brendan O'Leary Orange, missed their most recent game, but was limited in practice on Monday, full on Tuesday and Wednesday due to that rib injury, so he will be available for this game. We'll see what the depth chart looks like in terms of his final status. And then we have Keandre Smith, $6,600. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him once again. Tim White at $7,600, also GPP option, also in line with the field on him as well. And then Drew Wolterzinski, who signed with the team as a free agent in the offseason, was able to practice in full all week due to his ankle injury. He is listed as available, and this would be the first game that he actually be able to play so far this season. So it could be an interesting pay down option if you really want to go there, but not really sure how he fits into this wide receiver room at this point in time. Then we move down to Tiger Cats defense, $3,500. Their potential pay down option. Probably going to be in line with the field on them, maybe slightly overweight to the field on them, just based on kind of how Montreal is lining up. McLeod Bethel-Thompson at quarterback. Not a bad backup to go to whatsoever, but if Austin Mack's out, there is a little bit of kind of changes this week, so that could throw them off at least early on in the game. And then we move down to the BC Lions. We got Nathan Rourke at quarterback, limited practice on Tuesday and Wednesday due to his core injury. We'll see ultimately whether or not he's back this week or not. probably trending towards him not being active, so we're probably going to get Jeremiah Masoli at quarterback once again. He's up to $9,200, so I'm not really getting to him this week overall. If you really want to get to him, you can definitely do that if he ultimately ends up getting the start once again. And then we move down to James Butler, running back, $8,000 GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Maybe ever so slightly overweight to the field, but we do have some pretty good running back options on this slate just in general. Then we move down to wide receiver. Stanley Berryhill was limited in practice on Tuesday and Wednesday due to a thigh injury once again. We'll ultimately see if he's on the depth chart and what his final status is for the week, but not getting to him whatsoever this week. Javon Gotoy at $6,900 GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him once again. Keon Hatcher's up to $8,100 now. He's played really well so far this season, which is good to see. Obviously, was playing in really well 2 years ago. I think he had the Achilles injury. Then obviously he was coming back from it last year, and he wasn't quite his normal self, which is kind of to be expected coming off major injury, but nice to see him return to form. GPP option in line with the field on him once again. And then Justin McInnis, $9,700. Also GPP option will be on line with the field on him once again as well. And then Kieran Passant did not practice on Tuesday or Wednesday due to his thigh injury, so probably going to be out once again this week. If we do get Seven McGee active once again on game day and he returns kicks, he could be an interesting paydown option or dart throw at $2,500. And then we move down to that Lions defense, $3,700. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on them overall. They are a relatively cheap option at this point in time. Their defense hasn't played great, but they do go against the Roughriders, who are very, very banged up at this point in time. Speaking of that Roughriders team, we got Trevor Harris, a quarterback, $9,700. He was unable to practice on Tuesday and Wednesday due to a head/illness is what they're listing it as at this point in time. So hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's able to go for this game. If he's able to go, I think he's a viable GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. But if he's unable to go, it's probably going to be Jake Meyer getting the start. Not really too interested in Jake Meyer with a very, very banged up wide receiver room just in general. But at running back, we got AJ Alouette once again, $7,700. Cash game option will be overweight to the field on him once again this week, especially with potentially no Trevor Harris at quarterback and a very, very banged up wide receiver room once again. Albert Atchaway at fullback, limited in practice on Tuesday and Wednesday due to that hip injury, probably going to be out once again this week. And then in terms of the wide receiver room, obviously Keon Schaefer-Baker is on the 6-game injury list. And then kind of the same guys that didn't play last week, still not practicing this week, and Samuel Emlis due to that foot injury, Tommy Neal due to the ankle injury, and Sean Bain Jr. due to the knee injury, or coming back from the knee surgery, I should say. So pretty much what we saw last week's probably going to be pretty similar to this week. Keyshawn Johnson, $10,200 GPP option. Slightly underweight to the field on him just because that price tag is really high at this point in time, but he does definitely have some pretty good upside. He didn't practice on Tuesday, but was back at practice in full on Wednesday. That was not injury related. It's something personal related. I have not looked too far deep into it to see what it was, but he should be good to go this week. And then Dante Myers at $6,800. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Had that really strong week last week, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does have another really strong week once again this week as well. You know, if you want to roll out any of the other wide receivers that they're rolling out, whether that's Duncan Busby, whether it's Picton, whether it is Mims, robustly, they did sign Josh Ollie to the practice roster this week as well, so there is a chance that he could potentially be elevated at that same time as well. So kind of a crapshoot once again at that wide receiver room. We're mainly just looking at Myers and Johnson once again, but if you want to take a shot on somebody else, you can definitely do that at the same time as well. Then we move down to the Rough Riders defense. They're $4,300. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on them once again. I think they're a decent defense overall. Going against the BC Lions, it could be an interesting matchup. There is potential for some upside there, but there's also some potential for downside at the same time as well. Wish they were a little bit cheaper than $4,300, but I definitely do understand it at this point in time as well. Then we move down to the Toronto Argonauts. Chad Kelly still dealing with that leg injury, was limited practice on Wednesday. Probably not getting him back once again this week. You know, if you really want to go to Nick Arbuckle at $10,000, you could do it. I just don't really feel like paying $10,000 for Nick Arbuckle. In terms of the running back room, we got Deontay McMahon not practicing once again on Wednesday due to that ankle injury. Would assume that he's out once again this week. Mayan Williams, $7,000. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Kevin Brown behind him at $3,000. If you want to get to him as a potential paydown option, you can definitely do that as well. Probably just going to be in line with the field on him. There is some upside to be had there, but there also is a pretty low floor at the same time as well. In terms of their wide receivers, we got DeMonte Coxie, GPP option at $9,000, probably going to be in line with the field on him once again. Devarius Daniels was able to practice in full on Wednesday due to that hip injury, so I would expect him back this week. $6,300 GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him at the same time as well. And then Janorian Grant, limited practice on Wednesday due to that ankle injury, still bothering him. We'll see whether or not he's able to go this week or not. And then the last guy I want to mention here is going to be Kevin Meidel at $4,200. Had that big week last week, kind of that pay down option. In line with the field on him, maybe slightly underweight to the field with Daniels being back now. But, I did want to mention that he had that really good performance, which I said was something that could happen, especially with Tavares Daniels out last week. Then we move down to the Argonauts defense. They look like a pretty interesting GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on them. Maybe ever so slightly overweight to the field, especially if Drew Brown's out at quarterback once again this week for that Ottawa Redblacks team. But with that being said, we'll get moved down to that Redblacks team. Drew Brown at quarterback, $9,500. He was limited on Wednesday due to that hip injury once again. So we'll see ultimately whether or not he's back this week or not. They started Dustin Crum last week. I think they probably go back to him this week. So he's a viable GPP option. If he does ultimately end up starting, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Obviously, the rushing upside is the one thing that can really carry him just in general. In terms of the running backs, William Stanback, Daniel Adebayo, probably not really getting to either one. Both of them had decent weeks last week. If you really want to go with either one of them, go ahead. But it's kind of hard to figure out who's going to be the guy for them at this point in time. Then we move down to the wide receiver room. We got Devontae Dedmon there, kind of the kick returner. Dart throw if you really want to go there. But in terms of the other wide receivers, I got Braylon Addison, Justin Hardy, Eugene Lewis, and Khalil Pimbleton, all as GPP options at their respective price tags. Eugene Lewis, I'm slightly underweight to the field on, but everybody else probably be pretty close to in line with the fields. So there's not too many major stands to be had here for this Redblacks team just in general. And then we move down to that Redblacks defense, $3,900. Some decent upside going against the Toronto Argonauts if they can get some pressure on whoever starts at quarterback for them. Probably going to be Nick Arbuckle, but if they can get some pressure on them, could be a good spot overall. So maybe ever so slightly overweight to the field on them. Probably depends on what we get for an injury report tomorrow prior to lock, especially with a lot of their defense being banged up at this point in time. And then last but not least, the Calgary Stampeders are the lone team on the bye. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown of my CFL DFS sheet for week number 4. As always, if you have any questions related to CFL DFS, be sure to drop them down in that comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Once again, this sheet will be posted up on my Patreon page. It will be updated throughout the week, but I will be listing all the depth charts down in the comment section of this video, as well as any other major news that does come out throughout the rest of the week. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos, typically Monday through Friday. There will not be one for Thursday this week. It's just a weird slate just in general. And then I have my CFL DFS video coming out once a week. Obviously, that's this video, and that does typically come out on Wednesdays. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's a 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in CFL DFS for week number 4.